Hello everyone, welcome back to Talking History. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're all keeping well. My name's Liz and on this channel I do exactly as it's called, I talk all about history. So for today's video I'm doing a little bit something different, Yeah. I'm stepping away from everything I've been doing with the Anglo-Saxon and Normans. I am going to do a video on Halloween. I thought it would be appropriate given the season and it's Halloween on next Monday. So I thought it'd be a little bit fun. It's only going to be a quick little video, but we got to have some fun in between and we got to shake things up a little bit as well, I think. Anyway, so if that's something that you're interested in and you'd like to hear, then please do stay tuned. Halloween is celebrated on the 31st of October, and like I said, this year it lands on Monday. And Halloween's origins go as far back as the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, and they had lived over 2,000 years ago, and the Celts were mostly in Ireland, UK, and northern France. And they celebrated their new year on the 1st of November. And this day marks the end of summer and harvest, and it was the beginning of dark, cold winter. And it was also the time of year that was often associated with human death. The Celts had believed that on the night before the new year, the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead became cloudy. And on the night of the 31st of October, they celebrated Samhain, whereas believed that the ghost of the dead returned to earth, and they believed that the spirits of the dead not only caused trouble and damage to their crops, they also thought the presence of the otherworldly made it easier for druids to make predictions about their future, and these prophecies brought much comfort during the long dark winter. So to commemorate the event, the Druids used to build huge sacred bonfires and people would gather crops to burn, and unfortunately animals were sacrificed to the Celtic deities. And during these celebrations, the Celts wore costumes that mostly consisted of animal heads and skins, and they would attempt to tell each other their fortunes. And when the celebrations was over, they would return home and they would relight their fires that they had extinguished earlier on in the evening, and they would relight them from the fire from this sacred bonfire to help protect them during the oncoming winter. So when the Roman Empire had conquered by 43 AD, in the course of the 400 years, they had rolled the Celtic lands to Rome, and festivals were combined with the traditional Celtic celebration of Samhain. The first celebration was Feralia, a day in late October, where the Romans had traditionally commemorated the passing of the dead. The second festival was the day where they honoured Polonaise, and the Roman goddess of fruit and trees. And the symbol of Pomona is the apple, and the incorporation of this celebration with Samhain. And it may explain the tradition of bopping for apples that is practiced today at Halloween. Actually, I'm not sure if that is still practiced today, bopping for apples. I don't know. I'm not sure if it happens here in the UK. It may happen in America. I don't know whether health and safety got their hands on it and went into overdrive and banned it all. I know they banned conkers. Anyone else used to do that? Get the conkers, put it on the string and play conkers and learn to get your hands out of the way, that's for sure. It certainly hurt when they knocked your knuckles. But I know they banned that, so I don't know about bopping for apples. Anyway, in 1609 AD, on May the 13th, Pope Boniface IV had dedicated the Pantheon in Rome to honour all Christian martyrs, and the Catholic feast of All Martyrs Day was established in the Western Church. Pope Gregory VII had later expanded the festival to All Saints as well as Martyrs, and he moved the observance from May the 13th to November the 1st, becoming All Saints' Day. By the 9th century, Christianity had spread into Celtic lands where had gradually merged with older Celtic rites, and in the year 1000 the church had made the 2nd of November All Souls Day, a day to honour the dead. Now, All Souls Day was celebrated very similar to Samhain, with big bonfires and parades and dressing up as angels, saints and devils. And All Saints' Day celebrations was also called All Hallows, or All Hallows the night before, which was the traditional night of Samhain, and had begun to be called All Hallows Eve, and eventually Halloween. The tradition of trick-or-treating probably dates back to early All Souls' Day parades in England. During the festivities, the poor would beg for food, and families would give them pastries called soul cakes. And in return for their promise to pray for the family's dead relatives, this was encouraged by the church in a way to replace the ancient practice of leaving food and wine for Roman spirits, which was known as going a souling. And this was taken up by children who would visit the houses in their neighbourhood, and they'd be given ale, food and money. The tradition of dressing in costume for Halloween has both European and Celtic roots. Hundreds of years ago, winter was a very uncertain and frightening time. Food supplies would often run low, and for many, they were afraid of the dark. The short days of winter were full of a lot of worry. At Halloween, when it was believed that ghosts came back to the earthly world, people had believed that they would encounter ghosts if they left their homes. So, to avoid being recognized by these ghosts, people would wear masks, and when they left their homes after dark, so the ghosts would mistake them for other spirits. People would place bowls of food outside their homes to please the ghosts and to stop them from entering their homes. Now, black cats. I have my very own little black cat. I will put a picture of her up here somewhere, and she is my little Ruby. Now, black cats and witches have a permanent place in Halloween folklore. Witches were believed to turn themselves into black cats, and if you were to cross paths with a black cat, it was considered extremely unlucky. It was said that the Druids, this part isn't nice to hear, they used to throw cats into a fire in wicker cages as part of a definition proceedings. Now, as the carvings for pumpkins into jack-o'-lanterns, this is actually an Irish legend. Jack-o'-lanterns are named after a string man named Jack, who had tricked the devil several times, and he was forbidden to enter either heaven or hell, and he was condemned to wander earth forever. And he waves his lantern to lead people away from their paths of safety and into danger. So, going to America. In late 1800s in America, there was a move to have Halloween as a holiday, having the community and neighbourly get-togethers rather than it being about ghosts and pranks and witchcraft. And at the turn of the century, though Halloween parties were for both children and adults, had become the most common way to celebrate the day. Halloween parties is focused more on games, food, and the season of festive costumes. But I'm going to tell you one little story that I found, and this was in America. Halloween was once so dangerous that there were some cities that was considering banning it completely. Violence and vandalism were as much part of Halloween as was sweets and costumes. On October the 31st in 1879 in Louisville, a passenger train was going through Newport, Kentucky, and as the train's engineer had looked out into the dark night, he saw something really frightening. He saw a body lying across the railroad tracks. So he immediately pulled the brakes and stopped the train. And as he got out of the train, he rushed over to the lifeless body. And when the train driver had quickly discovered why the body wasn't moving, as it wasn't a person at all, it was in fact a stuffed figure that was put there by 200 boys who were all hiding along the tracks, and they all started to howl with laughter at the Halloween prank. Although the boys had threatened not only the life of the train driver but also all of his passengers, nothing happened to the boys, as things like this was expected on Halloween, during this time when Halloween was free of sweets and full of pranks, vandalism, and even violence. So when Scottish and Irish immigrants had arrived in America, they had brought their own Halloween traditions in the middle of the 1800s, and they continued to celebrate as they did when they were back home. Not with children dressing in costumes or going door to door for sweets, but by pulling pranks. In Ireland, boys would carve scary faces into turnips to scare people, and they would tie string around cabbages and pull them through the field to scare farmers. In Scotland, they would pull up a cabbage stalk and light it, get it smoking, and they would shove it into someone's front door. So when they come home, they would find their house full of a really foul smoke. Now, sticking in America, because Halloween is a lot more American than England. I feel it's more celebrated in America than it is in England. But in later 1800s, across the American countryside, Halloween tricks had included putting farmers' wagons and livestock on barn roofs. I have no idea how they managed to get the livestock and wagons on a barn roof. No idea. And they uprooted vegetables in back gardens. They even tipped over outhouses, which the toilets, and whether they were occupied or not. And in some areas, gates were taken off their hinges to allow livestock to escape. And this had resulted in October the 31st becoming known as Gate Night. Now, when cars were becoming more popular, this had furthered the opportunities for pranks. Manhole covers would be removed from streets, tires would be deflated, and they would even put out fake detour signs to confuse drivers. And although the pranking, it was relatively innocent and it was limited to some rural areas, but as the city areas were expanding, the pranks were taken into the cities and it became more destructive. Fires were being lit and there was glass being broken and even tripping pedestrians. Boys would run through the city streets and splatter people with bags of flour or even black stockings filled with ashes. One year in Kansas City, youths had waxed streetcar tracks on a steep hill, which had caused cars to slip and crash into one another. And unfortunately, a passerby was seriously injured. So, Halloween has passed from the violence that it was once, thankfully. It's now all about parties and costumes and scary movies and Beetlejuice. I love Beetlejuice. It is my absolute favourite. I watch that film every single year without fail. That's what it should all be about. It should be harmless fun. That's what it should all be about. And whether you're someone who loves a bit of Halloween and you like watching a really good scary movie, and I do like a decent horror movie. And whether you like that or whether you're just like, nah, not interested, I'd just rather lock the door, stay at home, and I don't carve pumpkins or anything like that. I crocheted pumpkins in my little background there, so I do that, but I do like a little bit of Halloween. I think it's just a little bit of fun, and that's what it should be about. So whether you're celebrating Halloween this year, whether you're going to a Halloween party, whether you're holding a Halloween party, or whether you just want to stay at home and go, nah, it's just another day, not interested. And whatever you do, enjoy it and look after yourselves. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Just a quick little video. I thought it'd be a little bit of fun. So anyway, I will see you all soon for the next video. Take care.